Hi, I'm Dr. Bart Klika, Chief Research and Strategy Officer at Prevent Child Abuse America. Today, I'm here to talk to you about the most recent statistics regarding the scope of child abuse and neglect. But first, a little bit about me. Prior to coming to the Prevent Child Abuse America, I was an assistant professor in the School of Social Work at the University of Montana, where my research focused on the prevention of child abuse and neglect. I currently serve on the board of directors of the American Professional Society on the Abuse of Children, or APSAC, and serve as the chair of their prevention committee. I recently served as the senior editor of the 4th edition of the APSAC Handbook on Child Maltreatment. I received my master's degree from the University of Chicago and my PhD from the University of Washington. While at the University of Washington, I consulted with the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on their safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments framework. In addition, I participated in the Doris Duke Fellowship for the Promotion of Child Well-Being, a fellowship for early career scholars studying the prevention of child abuse and neglect. In order to prevent a problem such as child abuse and neglect, the first thing we need to be able to do is to define and measure the problem. For the purposes of my comments today, I'm relying on the National Child Abuse and Neglect Data System, or NCANDS data. These data are compiled annually from child protection agencies in all 50 states to arrive at national estimates of child abuse and neglect. One of the challenges of using NCANDS data is that all states are not required to define child abuse and neglect in the same way. As you can imagine, if states define child abuse and neglect in different ways, it is difficult to know whether we're truly comparing apples to apples across states. A second challenge with using NCANDS data to estimate child abuse and neglect is that these data only estimate the kids who come to official reporting agencies such as Child and Family Services and do not represent those kids who go unnoticed. We know that many children are abused and neglected every year but are never reported to Child Protective Services. With those ideas in mind, let's look at the data. In 2015, approximately 3.4 million referrals were placed to child welfare agencies nationally. Of those, 683,000 children were determined through official investigation to be victims of child abuse or neglect. 75% of those cases were for neglect, 17% were victims of physical abuse, and 8% were victims of sexual abuse. Some of these cases had multiple forms of abuse and neglect. Nationally, 1,670 children died as a result of child abuse and neglect. In Kentucky, in 2015, there were just over 101,000 referrals for child abuse and neglect, with 18,897 children determined through official investigation to be victims of abuse or neglect. 92% of children were victims of neglect, 8% victims of physical abuse, and 5% for child sexual abuse. In the state, 16 children died as a result of abuse or neglect. Looking at the data from 2011 to the present in Kentucky, rates of abuse and neglect are steadily increasing. Child abuse and neglect exact a financial toll. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention estimate that each victim of abuse and neglect will incur a lifetime cost of $210,012 in treating the consequences associated with maltreatment. These costs include productivity losses, healthcare and medical costs, child welfare costs, special education, and juvenile justice. If we use the CDC lifetime estimate of $210,012 per child victim and multiply that by the victims of abuse and neglect in Kentucky in 2015, we see that the lifetime cost of treating those victims will be nearly $4 billion. Remember, that is just the lifetime cost of treating the victims from 2015 in Kentucky. Here at Prevent Child Abuse America, we're working to move upstream to ensure that no child ever experiences abuse or neglect. We believe that every child deserves a great childhood. For more information, please visit us on the web at preventchildabuse.org. Thank you.